before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Neufeld, Mr. Blasier, people represented by Ms. Clark, Mr. Darden, Ms. Kahn. Jury is not present. Counsel, anything we need to take up before we invite the jurors to join us? Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. Your Honor, I just received a few moments ago an order signed by you regarding the sock drying experiment, presence of blood on sock interior, discovery violations. And I think I need a little bit of clarification, Your Honor. First of all, on page 2 of your order, you referred to the glove drying experiment. And I believe
Sock drying experiment.
Okay. What I understand, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, is you're not precluding Professor McDonald from testifying. What you're saying is that he cannot testify to the results of that experiment that he did at this time, based on the information that you have. With regard to presence of blood on sock interior, you referred to the description given by Mr. Sims in part of the testimony, but there's no reference to the other portions where he said that he saw a red-brown substance, but it's powder coming from, fibroils as opposed to a transfer stain. My question is, even without referring to the presumptive testing, the expert who is the nation's leading authority in bloodstain interpretation is entitled to give his opinion, but are you saying that at this point he can't refer to the presumptive tests? See, that's I need some clarification on.
No, he can say that there's a red something over there.
Okay.
Can't refer to the tests.
Can't refer to the presumptive test until
That's
there's
correct.
some kind of corroboration. Okay. Fine. And third is, I'd like to schedule him. You heard what the problem is about him leaving for Canada. Can I schedule him for early next week, which will still give them ample opportunity?
Right, because the scope of his testimony at this point is that in the interior of the sock, there appears to be a red substance, period.
And he will describe that red substance and what characteristics it has.
I assume.
Yeah. Also, as you know, you also received a copy of his July 15th report regarding the glove shrinkage experiment, which was done with the Aris gloves, the same gloves, in fact, that Mr. Darden used in an experiment in this courtroom with Mr. Simpson. So he'll be referring to that as well. And that's basically the testimony, as well as any just, generalized blood splatter interpretation. But we want to schedule him, that's all. So the delay that you are allowing the people based on the totality of these circumstances is what? Can we call him Tuesday?
I don't know. It depends on what I hear from the people.
Okay. You mean at this moment? Okay.
Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Al. As we informed the court earlier, with respect to the glove drying experiment, there is a motion that will be filed, I believe, today. I would be more apologetic about the late filing of these motions were it not for the fact that we just received the reports and had no idea that the Mr. McDonald was going to attempt to testify to matters contained therein. But that motion is forthcoming. With respect to the timing of his testimony, I still don't think we have an adequate offer of proof as to what the parameters of his testimony will be. His report, I believe now that counsel has said that he will testify to the appearance of what he says is a transfer on sock A, and that he will also testify to generalized blood spatter interpretation. Well, there are no reports of any findings he made on any blood spatter at the crime scene in this case or at Rockingham. And if that is going to be the subject matter of his testimony, we need to have a 402 on that. Although counsel may characterize Mr. McDonald as a leading authority in blood spatter interpretation, he, as the court and I think the jury will see, is far from the most renowned or the most revered. And I think that his conclusions will need to be reviewed by this court under 402 before being submitted to the jury. So perhaps a more definite offer of proof needs to be made before the people can determine when they will be ready.
But the question posed by Mr. Neufeld is a matter of scheduling at this point, and if you want to challenge these matters both on discovery bases and 402 bases, then we ought to set some time aside to do that. Mr. Neufeld's suggestion is perhaps Monday. How does that strike you?
Well, we have to file the motion on the glove. I think that's going to be, that will impact as well, Your Honor.
Well, it sounds to me like perhaps we ought to take up the 402 and 352 issues on the glove, since he'll be the person testifying to this, the discovery issues and everything else all on Monday. How does that sound?
That sounds fair.
The only question is this: if we're about to embark on EDTA witnesses, and it's possible that both witnesses, and Ms. Clark may be able to assess this as well, may go over to Monday, in which case I would do it Tuesday. I'm just trying to be realistic here.
That's fine with me, Monday or Tuesday. I'm not wedded to that as long as everyone has time to get ready and get up to speed on all these issues,
Okay.
because they're substantial. I have heard also, Your Honor, well, I would request of counsel, there are apparently other notes that Mr. McDonald has made of his observations and experiments that we have never received. And now, I mean, I'm not worried about the sock at this point, but I am concerned that there are reports concerning other observations or conclusions that he has made, notes and reports that counsel refers to, but we've never seen to this date. And so if there are any other notes or reports concerning the subject matter of his testimony or the subject matter for which he was contacted by the defense to do experimentation or investigation, the people formally make another request that it be turned over.
All right, Mr. Neufeld, any comment on that last report?
Your Honor, I think we're well advised of what our obligations are in terms of discovery in this case. We will certainly comply with it, and I believe we have complied with it with respect to Professor McDonald. So we're saying Tuesday then, I guess.
No, we're shooting for Monday.
We're shooting for Monday.
Shooting
Okay.
for Monday with the possibility we'll dribble over until Tuesday.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Blasier?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
We intend to call Dr. Frederick Reeders, our first EDTA witness, after the witness that's currently on the stand. I heard, I think on a television last night, that the prosecution was going to make some sort of a motion to either preclude him or delay him. They haven't told me that. They've known I've been working on this issue since they arrested. I think we need to decide that now. If they're going to make some sort of a challenge to that, we'd like to know that now. We have two experts here from the East Coast.
Well, let me ask you this. At this point, Mr. Cochran, how much more do you have with Mr. Ford?
Your Honor, I would think that I don't have very much to Mr. Ford, Your Honor, perhaps no more than 15 to 20 minutes with Mr. Ford.
All right, Ms. Clark, how much do you have on Mr. Ford? All right. Ms. Clark, what's the prosecution's position on, is it Dr. Reeders?
Yes.
Yeah, I just received notice of this change in developments late last night, and I'm very, I'm really outraged at the manner in which this defense has proceeded. It's a trial by ambush, according to the defense, and let me just indicate to the court procedurally what has transpired that leads me to this position. Dr. Reeders, we were informed, would testify at some point, but it was at the end of a series of witnesses who have now been skipped over by counsel. Dr. Reeders was added to the witness list, as best I can tell, formally on July 17th. That is this Monday. That is the same day we received his report. Now, the court, perhaps, I don't know if the court has seen the report. I don't think that it has.
No.
It's a two-page report, and yet the conclusions are very complex. They're very serious. If Dr. Reeders truly intends to testify to the positions he's adopted in that report, the cross-examination will have to be extensive, and the preparation time needs to be a little more than 2 days before he's called. And the defense deliberately put him on the witness list. Let me indicate to the court, as of July 15th, he wasn't even on the scheduled list of witnesses. As of July 18th, which is Tuesday, he was scheduled to testify after 7 other witnesses that have now been jumped over. The defense is deliberately attempting to force us into a position where we are unprepared to effectively cross-examine this witness. The people are requesting of the court, this witness has had the reports of Agent Martz, which is what he did. He didn't do any testing himself. He reviewed the reports of the testing conducted by Agent Martz and then issued a report of his opinion of those results. And those opinions are highly questionable, and require vigorous cross-examination, because what the attempt is here is to mislead and confuse the jury to such a degree that they will oversimplify and falsify the true nature of the findings by Agent Martz. This witness did not do the testing to which he plans to testify. In fact, he cannot do that testing and never has. Yet he purports to be able to interpret the results in a manner that will be highly inflammatory, also highly misleading. If he is called to testify first from a substantive point of view for the benefit of the jury, Your Honor, the jury will be completely misled and confused. At which point, if Agent Martz is ever, the defense cannot completely refuse to call Agent Martz because they have no foundation for the testimony of Dr. Reeders at all. But if they delay in the calling of Agent Martz, the issue will become so confusing and so misleading to the jury that he may never be able to sort it out so they understand what really transpired and what the test results really mean. So I have like a twofold objection: one, for the benefit of the jury in terms of their understanding of the testimony; two, for the benefit of the jury in terms of our ability to effectively confront and cross-examine the witness, which we have been deprived of the opportunity of doing by a doctor who has refrained from writing a report until a day or two before he takes the witness stand, based on reports he received at the end of February. I cannot think of a reason why a doctor would review reports that are not that voluminous, 30, 40 pages, at the end of February. I'm sure drew conclusions at least by the end of March, and not write a report until 3 to 4 months later. I think it is scandalous what has occurred here. I think it is a very deliberate attempt to try this case by ambush and to prevent the people from adequately meeting his testimony.
What remedy are you seeking, Ms. Clark?
Initially, the people seek preclusion of his testimony completely. And we object on the grounds for the discovery violation and the obvious subterfuge involved in turning over a report that had to have been ready to prepare months ago, 2 days before they intend to call him. Additionally, I remind the court of the context in which this appears, and that is that his name is added to the witness list only on Monday and deliberately put down below a bunch of others.
Which witness list are we talking about?
The defense called us at 7:45 p.m. on July 18th to tell us that Dr. Reeders would testify after the following witnesses.
All right, Ms. Clark, let me clarify my question. Dr. Reeders is a name. The name Dr. Reeders has been mentioned a number of times throughout this trial during the blood testimony. So when was Dr. Reeders placed on the master defense witness list?
Thank you. In March.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Let me take that back. Dr. Reeders was on the main list in October, and he was added again in March. So, yes, it's a name that is known to us, but a name without a report is virtually worthless. How do we know what he's going to address? In fact, I will tell the court this. It's very misleading, because due to the fact that I know he does not perform and cannot perform effectively the kind of testing involved in EDTA detection, we were of the opinion that he would testify. We didn't know what he would testify to, but we certainly could not anticipate it would be EDTA, since he's not an expert as far as the operation of the conducting of the testing in that particular area.
So I should expect an initial competency challenge.
Oh yes, oh yes. There's going to be substantial 402s that have to be conducted prior to his testimony. I was in the process of trying to prepare paperwork to that effect, and believing that I had 10 witnesses to go before him, thought that there would be the opportunity to do so. I should also indicate to the court that from a substantive point of view, as Ms. Kahn points out, Agent Martz is necessary to lay the foundation for Dr. Reeders. This is not a situation like Dr. Lakshmanan and Dr. Golden, because the test performed by Agent Martz, Dr. Reeders cannot perform. I believe never has performed. So
Well,
we
that's
have...
an interesting issue in and of itself. But let's get to the issue of how much, let's assume, let me ask you this, how much time do you need to effectively prepare to cross-examine Dr. Reeders?
Given the fact that I'm required to be in court every day on the other witnesses, and I have other witnesses that I'm scheduled to cross-examine,
Are you going to be cross-examining Dr. Reeders?
probably.
Not Mr. Harmon or Mr. Clark?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No.
Or Mr. Kelberg?
Or Mr. Kelberg.
All right.
I'm wearing out my welcome with Mr. Kelberg. I gotta save him up. But, and I might indicate too that Dr. Maltz has disappeared from the list, so I don't know, I need to know from council when he's going to appear. But that's another matter.
Okay.
I would ask leave of the court for 2 weeks, or the end of the defense case, whenever that is.
All right. Mr. Blasier?
Your Honor, this is a rather blatant and outrageous attempt of the prosecution to try to control our order of proof. Let me state a little bit of chronology here. Dr. Reeders has been an issue in this case since the beginning of the year. We had a whole hearing with Mr. Harmon talking about his improper contacts with Dr. Reeders. They've known that he's
Well,
been...
Mr. Blasier, let's cut to the chase. The issue is the turning over of a report 2 days before you're going to call him.
The report was turned over on Monday. There is no legal requirement that Dr. Reeders even write a report. He did not perform any tests. All he did was analyze their data. I feel like I've had a guest come to my house unexpected, stayed 3 weeks uninvited, and then they start complaining about the food. We don't have to have a report from Dr. Reeders. We did one, given all the falderall that we've gone through about experts not having reports. The conclusions in the reports are exactly what they thought they were when Mr. Harmon described our flicker of hope. They know what the issues are. Agent March knows what the issues are. I met with him last week in Washington. He told me what he thought our experts were going to say. They aren't that far apart, quite frankly. Both experts are going to say there are indications of EDTA on the sock and the back gate. Where they divert is in terms of whether you can quantify that. They've known about Dr. Reeders. They contacted me yesterday about talking to him. I said we could do that. We were kind of short on time at that point. They know what the issues are.
What is Dr. Reeders going to say about the levels?
He's going to say that their method is not capable of quantifying, first of all, how much is actually there, but more importantly, how much should be there, given the nature of the samples being exposed to the environment, being stored for 8 months, because the FBI didn't do any validation studies to demonstrate how much EDTA are you likely to lose, given the manner in which this evidence was collected and preserved. So he's going to say that their method is inadequate to do that.
How are you going to lay a foundation for this?
Dr. Reeders has been working with EDTA since 1950.
No, the fundamental foundation.
Testifying to Agent March's reports? The court advised us several times during the prosecution's case that we can't control their order of proof. They decided to call all of their LAPD witnesses who did their testing after they called the people from Cellmark, after they called the people from DOJ. We objected to that. You properly told us, not our decision, it's their decision. They can tie it up later. I'm assuming they're not going to argue that their own agent's test results are invalid. He didn't tell me that. He stands by his test results. That's all that Dr. Reeders is going to testify about. Dr. Lakshmanan never wrote a report. He testified not only before Dr. Golden, but in place of Dr. Golden. Colin Yamauchi was switched on their witness list until the end of until after Dr. Cotton and Gary Sims had testified.
You're not answering my question, Mr. Blasier. I sat through the whole trial so far. I know what's happened so far. You don't need to tell me that. I just had a fundamental question. How are you going to lay a foundation to have this guy testify to this stuff?
I'm going to have him look at Agent March's reports and findings and have him testify about those. I can do it on a hypothetical basis, then I'm going to call Agent March to authenticate them.
Okay. All right. Just a question.
Okay.
Ms. Clark?
I think that we need to have an assurance from council that Agent March will be called, because if not...
Well, then I'm sure you'll call him.
Well, no. Then I will ask to strike all of Dr. Reeder's testimony. But the jury, having already heard a bunch of confusing and unsupportable conclusions, may then be so confused I'll be required to. That's a different story. I don't want to be put in that position. And I think the council should be admonished that some very serious sanction.
No, well, Ms. Clark, I'm just raising the issue. I'm concerned about the foundation for this testimony. We'll see. That was a intellectual curiosity question. All right. Now, Mr. Blasier does raise the point that we've been talking about Dr. Reeders and the issue of EDTA for a long time, and we know what the issues are. I mean, it was apparent to me what the issues were.
Sure. You know, in a general sense, yes. Did we know about ETTA? Yes, we did. Did we know for sure that Dr. Reeders was going to testify to that? No. That's why Mr. Harmon was attempting to find out why his name came up in that context in a circle of chemists, I guess, that were talking about it, and actually, as far as I understood it, determined that he couldn't be called to testify because he doesn't do the testing. His lab is incapable. And so we thought he was basically there, as many of their witnesses are, as just fodder. Their witness list is fat and replete with witnesses that they will never call, never intend to call. I'm not actually accusing them of anything nefarious in that regard. I'm just saying that there are many like that, and I assume that Dr. Reeders was one of them because his lab doesn't do the testing. Now, it's one thing to say, even if you assume that we believed that he would be called, that there are issues here, but that doesn't mean that we understand what his conclusions will be and how to meet
I
them.
haven't seen the report. Does the report say that, yes, you can use this testing procedure to determine the presence of EDTA?
It doesn't say to the contrary. What Mr. Blasier has just represented to the court is not contained in his report. That offer of proof is the first time I've heard that he intends to so testify. That is not in his report. When his report, all he states is basically that in his opinion, the components that were identified in the this gets very complicated, but this has to do with the detection of ions. A parent ion, and then there's a daughter spectrum of ions. And why there are no sons, I don't know, but anyway, it's daughter ions. In the testing of the evidence blood stains and in Agent Martz's own unpreserved blood, we find there is a parent and one daughter ion, but not the full spectrum of daughter ions, meaning that it could be EDTA or any other compound with that same parent and daughter ion, which there could be hundreds of. But that result cannot be confirmed to be EDTA until you have the full daughter spectrum, which does show up in the reference blood samples. That's the bottom line. Now, what Dr. Reeders does is say, in my opinion, you call it EDTA when you find one parent ion and one daughter ion, even though you can't see the whole daughter spectrum. That's essentially what his report says. His report says nothing about
Sounds to me like you're ready.
Well, I understand this. I'm not ready to cross-examine, Your Honor, but believe me, I just read this report. We got one court day to prepare on this. They've had months to prepare on all of ours. I mean, where's the fairness in this? It's ridiculous, and this is a serious issue. This is a key focal issue in this case. And the defense drops it on us with one court day to prepare, then deliberately does this shell game with their order of witnesses to make sure that we can't prepare. Yes, I've read about EDTA. Big deal. That doesn't mean that I'm ready to cross-examine a report that I've just received. One court day? No one would require a lawyer to go forward on one court day on an issue of such magnitude and, well, maybe someone would, but on an issue of such complexity. I mean, it wouldn't be fair. It simply wouldn't when the court is aware that the defense has had months to prepare for the smallest of our scientific witnesses. And I don't mean that in terms of length as much as in terms of simplicity or complexity of issues. This is very complex. But that's all his report says. It says nothing about the inadequacy of the testing procedures utilized by the FBI. It says nothing about the degradation of EDTA in samples that are maintained or stored in certain ways. What Mr. Blasier just represented to the court, we have no notice of at all. I mean, this is worse than I imagined, far worse, because he intends to get up there and ambush us again and blindside us with all kinds of conclusions and opinions that are contained in no report, for which we have no 402. What was the point of having a discovery statute under Prop 115 if they come in and play this game again? And that's what they're doing.
Well, I think one of the products of this case is likely to be a complete revision of 1054.
I would not be surprised. In fact, I intend to put my shoulder into the effort if there is one, but I would indicate to the court that at the very, very least, if the testimony is not precluded, that the people be given 10 days to prepare on this. And I don't think that that's asking a whole lot when we know that the defense has had months to prepare on the very smallest of scientific issues in the people's case. And I really am just asking for the court not to give the defense the windfall benefit of their own tactics.
Mr. Blasier, what is Dr. Reeder's schedule?
He's in town. I don't
His
know.
availability.
I have not checked with him. He's available now.
Where is he from?
Maryland or Philadelphia.
All right, why don't you check with his schedule?
Well, Your Honor, may I respond?
All right.
They know what these issues are. They know exactly what they are.
They do, but they just got the report. This is a key issue, and it's a highly complex area. And to drop a report a couple of days before you're going to cross-examine an expert. If the shoe were on the other foot, I'd be peeling you off the ceiling right now.
Lakshmanan was on for 8 days. He didn't write anything down.
Cancel. That doesn't work. Find out his schedule. Let's have the jury. All right, let the record reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Willie Ford, would you resume the witness stand, please? All right, just sit back, pull the microphone close to you, sir. All right, good morning, Mr. Ford.
Good morning.
Mr. Ford, you're reminded, sir, that you are still under oath. Mr. Cochran, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Ford.
Good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Ford, when we recessed yesterday, we were talking about, I believe, having shown you the video of the upstairs bedroom of Mr. O.J. Simpson, that you never at any time we were in that bedroom saw any socks at the foot of Mr. O.J. Simpson's bed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to that, I'd like to show you a photograph and put a photograph on the Elmo, Your Honor. People's Exhibit number 167, and I'd like to approach the witness. I'm trying to Mr. Darden. One, two.
Yes.
I'd like to show this to you. Mr. Ford, I want you to take a look at that photograph. And first of all, do you recognize that photograph as being Mr. Simpson's bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And do you see those straps or whatever they are on the bed there?
Yes.
And do you see in that photograph what appears to be some socks at the foot of that bed
Yes.
and on the carpet? Is that right?
Yes.
And did you strike that? Did you at any time ever see any socks at the foot of Mr. Simpson's bed when you were in that room at about 4:12 or 4:13 on June 13th, 1994?
No, sir.
So you never saw what's depicted in that photograph, right?
Right.
All right, thank you. Now I'd like to
Yes, you may.
go on and ask some other questions. Mr. Harris, I think, is getting the video also. Mr. Ford, sir, is that the photograph I just showed you?
Yes, sir.
And the condition of the that carpet with the socks thereon, it's your testimony that at no time while you were in that room did you ever see those socks on that carpet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, can you pull the photograph back a little bit and so we can show the a little more? Now, with regard to those straps that are on the bed there, you did in fact see those in the video, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so that we're clear, when you walked in that particular room, sir, you walked right across that carpet, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And because you took a shot that I'm going to have Mr. Harris pull up in a minute, where you were at the foot of the bed shooting toward the headboard of that bed, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was before, as I understand it, you went into the area that was described, I think, yesterday as a vanity or some kind of area where you, bureau or vanity, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then as I understand it, after you did the shot of the bedroom, you did this vanity area, you took some shots in the bathroom, is that right?
Yes.
In Mr. Simpson's closet, right?
Yes.
And then that ended your shooting of the interior of the house, is that correct?
Yes.
And then did you and Mr. Atkins leave shortly after that?
Yes.
And do you have you referred to the log and determined what time you left the premises that day?
Yes, approximately 4:30.
You left about 4:30 in the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
And you know that from checking the log, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So as best we can tell, you got there about 3:10. You did your work expeditiously, and you left about 4:30, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you left, where did you go at that point, sir?
Back to the Parker Center photo lab.
Went back downtown to your photo lab?
Yes.
With that particular video, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, when you got back, did you look at the video right away when you got back downtown on
No.
June 13th? When's the next time you looked at that video, the video that you shot on June 13th, 1994, sir?
The first time I was called to testify a few months ago.
All right, and that was, I'm not sure I have the date. I have a copy of the transcript. I'm not sure I have the date. Counsel has me around March 31st, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That was at a time that you testified at a hearing in this case?
Yes, sir.
You saw that video prior to that particular hearing?
Yes.
And so between June 13th and March 31st, 1995, you had not seen the video?
That's correct.
Like you'd never seen it, is that okay?
That's correct.
In other words, you did your job and took it back, and who'd you give it to when you got back to Parker Center?
Detective Harrell, I think it was.
You gave it to Harrell?
I think so.
And Harrell was the person who had given you these instructions about what to do inside the place there, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, Harrell told you, did he not, to take pictures of even things on the wall, didn't he?
Yes.
You did that also, right?
Yes, sir.
What he said essentially was to photograph everything inside of the house, including pictures on the wall.
Sustained.
Well, what did Harrell tell you?
To videotape all of his effects that were out, including pictures on the wall.
And you tried to do that, didn't you, sir?
Yes, sir.
And that's what we see in the finished product of your particular work, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right now, with regard to your testimony here today, you had occasion to meet with Mr. Christopher Darden on Monday of this week, is that correct?
Yes.
That would have been on, today being July 20th, that would have been on Monday, July 17th?
Yes, sir.
And did you meet with Mr. Darden in this particular building?
Yes.
And did you meet with him around 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
I think so.
And who else was present, if anyone, during that meeting?
Sherry Lewis.
This is the lady to my immediate right here, Ms. Sherry
Yes.
Lewis? All right, and the two of them were there?
Yes.
Who else was present?
I think there was another person by the name of David Wooden.
David Wooden, is that the young man who's been here? Have you seen him in court in
Yes,
the last
I
couple
have.
days you've been here? He's someone who works on the prosecution team?
Yes.
All right. And who else was present?
That's all I can recall right now.
So you met about 1 o'clock, and how long did you meet? How long altogether did you meet starting at 1 o'clock on July 17th, 1995?
It was just a few minutes. Most of that time was spent waiting in the office.
All right, you met, well, what time did you meet finally, do you recall?
I think it was between the time court was out to lunch and the time that you had to come back in.
So you met over the lunch hour?
Mm-hmm.
You got to answer out loud. Is that
Yes. I'm sorry.
No
Yes.
problem, sir. You met over the lunch hour?
Yes.
All right. But didn't you stay here till about 4 o'clock that day?
Yes.
Well, Was Ms. Lewis in court that day, or did you stay and meet with her after Mr. Darden left?
After that, we didn't meet. I was just standing by to be called.
All right, so let me see. You came here at about 1 o'clock, is that right? Well, tell me what time you came.
I said during the lunch hour. I think the meeting in the office was around about 1.
All right, and how long did that meeting last? That's the
About
question.
10, 15 minutes, I think. I would guess.
All right, and that was all you talked, and that was when Mr. Darden was with Ms. Lewis, is that right?
Yes.
Did you meet with either Mr. Darden or Ms. Lewis or any other member of the prosecution team after that meeting on Monday around the lunch hour?
Just as they were coming back and forth from court while I'm standing by.
And what happened when they were coming back and forth from court? Did you talk
Basically
about the
just say hi, and we're sitting there watching television.
What were you watching on television?
Basically the trial proceeding here.
You were watching the trial upstairs in the DA's office?
Yes.
You know that witnesses are precluded from watching television in this case, or watching this trial?
Overruled.
That there's an order by His Honor Judge Ito for lay witnesses not to watch the trial. You aware of that?
None.
Overruled.
Are you aware of that?
No, sir.
District Attorney's Office provided you with the television in the DA's office for you to watch television on Monday?
They didn't provide it especially for me, but it was there.
Well, I mean, there's a television in the room where you as a witness were being kept?
This was not a room just for witnesses. It was just,
Well,
we're
the
just
room, I'm sorry, go right on. Go right on.
sitting in an office where there was a television.
There was an office with a television, and was that television turned on?
Yes.
And you sat there and you watched the television of these proceedings, is that correct?
Yes.
Anybody tell you that you were not supposed to watch television
No.
per the judge's order? Mr. Darden never told you that?
No.
Ms. Lewis never told you that?
No.
So would I be correct in assuming that you watched television Monday afternoon from about the time you came at lunchtime until you left at about 4 o'clock?
Basically, that's correct.
And since no one from the prosecution team told you that you weren't supposed to watch television, you've watched the proceedings in this case at other occasions, isn't that correct? Isn't that right?
In the Simpson case, you mean?
Yes, Simpson case. This case.
Yes, I have.
In fact, over at the police department, where you work in SID, there are a lot of televisions on, aren't there?
No.
There aren't televisions on in the SID division?
No.
When have you watched television at other occasions? At home?
We have a television set, but we don't watch the television of the trial as it's going on. There's only been times when we had our own people from SID that we would watch a little bit of that, and that's it.
Well, if there have been testimony from others from SID that the television set is on when, let's say, Mr. Cullen Yamauchi is on.
Yeah.
Sustained.
All right, when,
Let's move on. We've established this.
all right. I'd like to, if the court would allow me to briefly approach.
No, let's proceed.
All right. All right, John. Just one other follow-up question.
Sure.
With regard to watching television in this case, you've watched it on occasions at work, is that correct?
Yes. on
And you
occasion.
watch it on occasion at home also, is that correct?
No.
You haven't watched it at home, just only at work
Right.
and here in the DA's office?
Yes.
And when you were up in the DA's office watching television on Monday, was there other witnesses in this office where you were?
Yes.
And what was the name of that witness, or those witnesses?
I don't know.
How many witnesses were in there with you?
The one witness. Now, when you say witness, these are people to be called.
Yes, sir, to be called.
Dieter, a fellow photographer of mine.
Is that Rokar,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rokar? He was in there with you?
Yes.
And was he watching also?
Very briefly.
Same television you were watching?
Yes, sir.
And sir, with regard to, you were here yesterday also? is that
Yes.
correct? And prior to being called yesterday in the afternoon, were you in the same office upstairs?
Yes.
Were you watching television again at that time?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, I think we've exhausted this area.
Very well, Your Honor. I'll move on. All right. Now, Ford, when you left the Rockingham address and it was about 4:30, you and Mr. Atkins left together, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You come in a particular vehicle together and then you left together, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you went back downtown?
Yes.
And with regard to this video that you turned over to Detective Harrow, did you give it to Harrow on that same date, June 13th?
No, sir.
When did you give it to Harrow?
The very next day.
That would be on June 14th?
Yes, sir.
And where did you see Detective Harrow when you turned the tape over?
Third floor, Parker Center, RHD.
And from the time you turned it over to him on the 14th, and you never saw it again until March 31st, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then, as I understand your testimony, on March 31st, you then had occasion to review the tape prior to your coming to this courtroom to testify at a hearing, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And how many times did you watch the tape at that time?
Once.
And after March 31st, when you viewed the tape, did you have occasion to view it again prior to your testimony here starting yesterday afternoon?
Yes.
And when was that?
Monday.
And that was during this time that you were up in Mr. Darden's office?
Yes, sir.
Well, when you were upstairs in the DA's office, were you in Mr. Darden's office?
Yes.
And when you were watching television, was that Mr. Darden's office?
I think so.
And so that's where the television set was, is that right?
Yes.
All right. So you and Mr. Rokar were in his office, actually.
No.
Where were you?
Mr. Rokar I only saw him in passing.
All right. Well, where was Mr. Rokar watching television?
He was in, I don't know whose office it was. It's one of the offices where the secretary is sitting.
But there was a television set there, huh?
Yes, sir.
Also. All right. So now, when you then met with Mr. Darden and Miss Lewis, did you go through the entire video or just look at part of it or what?
Just parts of it.
Okay. Tell us what parts of the video you looked at.
Basically the same part that was just shown.
Just the parts involving the missing socks?
Yes.
Sustained.
Well, let me rephrase it. The part where you didn't see any socks.
Exactly.
And that was the only part you looked at?
Yes, sir.
And who played the tape for you at that time?
I don't recall who was, I think it was Sherry Lewis.
All right,
operating
and
the
then,
machine.
I'm sorry, did you finish?
Operating.
The machine.
I think Miss Sherry Lewis was operating the
I
machine.
think so.
Is that what you're saying? Now, as you watched this portion of the tape involving the socks that you didn't see there, was there some conversation with Mr. Darden at that point?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Darden ask you whether or not you'd ever seen the socks on that particular day?
Yes, sir.
Sustained.
Well, may I rephrase, seek to
Yes.
rephrase it? Was there ever any discussion with Mr. Darden where you were there of whether or not you saw any socks on the date of June 13th, 1994, and you can answer that yes or no? You can answer that.
Yes, sir.
That subject matter came up?
Yes, sir.
And were you, in responding to any questions that were asked of you, were you honest and forthright in your responses?
Yes, sir.
Would I be correct in assuming that you've been honest and forthright in your responses here also?
Yes, sir.
You have no axe to grind in this case, do you?
No, sir.
Now, may I just a second, Your Honor, regarding the video? Now, with regard to the testimony of others from the Special Investigations Division, LAPD, do you know Andrea Mazzola? You know who she is?
Yes, I know who she is.
And do you know who Mr. Dennis Fung is?
Yes, sir.
And I think I'd ask you before briefly, Mr. Foundation, Your Honor, that you had had occasion to watch, at least the television sets were on when members of SID were testifying, right?
Yes.
All right. And with regard to the recovery of evidence in this case, are you aware of Andrea Mazzola's testimony regarding, may I finish the question, Your Honor?
Sustained.
May I finish the question, Your Honor?
Sustained. Sustained.
Well, do you know what Andrea Mazzola testified about as to the time that she and Dennis Fung picked these socks up?
Over.
Are you aware of the time that she testified under oath in this courtroom to the time she picked these socks up on June 13th, 1994?
No, sir.
You've not talked to her about it?
No,
Did you see her testimony in that regard?
no.
I want to show you then a log and evidence here.
Yes. What exhibit is this?
This is Exhibit 1091, Your Honor. It's a log, I think, prepared.
Counsel's further
Well, this
description of this item.
this is an exhibit, Your Honor. I can refer to what this is.
1091.
1091, Your Honor. And I'd like to approach the witness with this exhibit, if I may.
You may.
Thank you. I want to approach you at this point.
352 is for this witness.
Sidebar with the court board, please. proceed.
Pepsi. There's conversation. Now, Mr. Ford, I want to approach you and, first of all, I want to show you a log and ask you if you've ever seen this log, which is
1091.
Defense 1091. Thank you, Your Honor. I'll place this before you, and if you need some explanation regarding what that is, I'll be glad to try.
No, haven't seen this long.
All right. Did you ever, at any time, have occasion to watch any of the testimony of Andrea Mazzola when she testified here in court under oath regarding the times that she picked up certain items at Rockingham?
No, sir.
Did you ever, at any time, have occasion to talk with Andrea Mazzola regarding her testimony?
No, sir.
Did you talk to her on the date of June 13th, 1994?
No, sir.
You did not talk to her at all?
Not at all.
With regard to Dennis Fung, have you had occasion to talk with Dennis Fung regarding times that he collected items at Rockingham on June 13th, 1994?
No, sir.
Did you talk to Dennis Fung on June 13th, 94?
Yes, sir.
And you talked to him while you're still at the scene?
Yes.
And with regard to the times of items that he picked up, or allegedly picked up on that date, did you have occasion to talk to him about those items?
No, sir.
Did you talk to Mr. Fung around the time you first got there or near the time that you were leaving?
No.
You can answer that yes or no?
That's no.
You did not talk to him when you first got there?
No, sir.
You talked to him near the time that you were leaving?
No, sir.
You talked to him during the time you were there?
Yes.
And what part of the house were you in when you talked to him?
Different parts of the house.
Did you talk to him when you were downstairs then?
Yes.
Did you talk to him when you were upstairs?
Yes.
What time upstairs did you talk to him?
I have no idea.
You have no idea what time it was?
This was not a conversation.
Well, you talked to him, but it was not a conversation?
Yes, sir.
Did you ask him any questions?
No, sir.
Did he ask you any questions?
No, sir.
When the time when you talked to Mr. Fung or there was conversation with Mr. Fung, who else was present?
I would say my boss and Detective Harrell. They were in the vicinity.
In the vicinity?
Yes.
But you can give us no idea of the time.
I couldn't tell you any exact times.
If you were to look at that video again, can you tell us where you were in the house the time you were talking to Mr. Fung?
No, sir.
Well, let me see if I can refresh your recollection.
Proper foundation to refresh his recollection.
Overruled.
Take a look at this video, and I'm going to ask you if you talked to Fung during any of these points, if I might. Did you talk to Detective Looper about items you'd photographed?
No, sir.
You didn't at all?
No,
Not that day or ever?
not ever.
Your Honor, we're referring to exhibit number 1068, Your Honor. Defense. Mr. Harris has 1068 now. I want to just ask you some questions regarding this. Again, this is about 408, and you're going up the stairs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, this conversation that whatever you said to Mr. Fung or whatever he said to you should be hearsay. What did it take place while you were on the stairs there, going up?
It might have.
You don't know that?
No.
All right, continue on. There again, you're shooting the photographs on the wall, of the pictures on the wall, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Per the instructions. Did it take place in that room there?
No, sir.
One of the children's rooms?
No.
The answer was no?
No.
Did it take place in that room there?
No, sir.
And that's about 4:09 p.m., right?
Yes.
Did you talk to him in that room?
No, sir.
Who's that in the background of that photograph?
Looks like Detective Harrow and my boss, David Atkins.
Harrow and Adkins?
Yes, sir.
Was Dennis Fung in any of these photographs?
No.
Did you talk to him in that room?
Not in that room. To my best recollection, I would say it would be in that hallway just prior to the scene here.
Just prior to the scene?
Yes.
We can back it up then? You tell us when.
I was in the hallway.
No, I want you to look at the thing and try to show us where you were, sir.
Where the picture's on the wall, about right there.
Right in this. Wait. All right, let's stop it here. During this area right here?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's stop it. Stop it, Mr. Hudson. So it's your testimony that you believe that you had a conversation or there was some word spoken between you and Mr. Fung?
Yes.
At that location?
Yes, sir.
Do you have that written in any report anywhere, sir?
No, sir.
You ever testified about that before?
No, sir.
And when's the first time you told anybody about that? This alleged conversation that took place in that hallway there at about 4:11 on June 13th.
I haven't told anybody about it.
You talked to Mr. Darden about that? On Monday when you were up here? Or Tuesday?
No.
You never told anybody about that? It's the first time we're hearing it for the first time. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Who was present when you had this this conversation or talk with Mr. Fung?
I would say my
We're going to continue it on.
Hold on. The record reflect that Mr. Ford has testified at a point on the tape that is 3:11 p.m. Proceed.
All right, you can proceed. Who else was present during this time at about 4:11 p.m. on June 13th?
my boss, David Atkins, and Detective Harrow is in the area.
Okay, were they standing close by? How far were they?
I have no idea. I'm looking through the viewfinder of the camera.
All right.
All I know, they were upstairs with me.
All right. You were actually focusing on what you were shooting. Is
Yes.
that correct? So you were not aware of where everybody was at that point. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. And then when you continued on this particular photograph, as you went into the bedroom,
Yes.
come to that in just a moment, Mr. Simpson's bedroom.
I think there's another conversation at this point also.
You think there was a conversation or at least some words spoken?
Yes, sir.
At this point here at about 4:12 p.m. with Mr. Fung?
Yes.
All right, this is what appears to be the first bathroom entering Mr. Simpson's bedroom suite.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
With regard to, this is Mr. Simpson's, part of his bedroom suite, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any conversation with Mr. Fung during that time?
No, Mr. Fong is gone at this time.
Now, at 4:13, whatever conversation you had, the time you were in that bedroom, it's your testimony that Dennis Fung was gone at that point?
Yes, sir.
Did you discuss with Mr. Fung, have you discussed with Mr. Fung as to the time he told this jury that he went upstairs on that date? Mask?
Overruled.
You discussed that with him?
No, sir.
Did you ever see his testimony in that regard?
No, sir.
Did you ever review any log regarding the time he was upstairs?
No, sir.
Anyway, we approach one other matter.
Without the reporter.
Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. Apologize, Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford, with regard to this indication about seeing or talking to Dennis Fung at some point, that video camera you had some kind of audio capacity, did it not?
Yes, it did.
So, and the audio was on, was it not?
No, sir.
You had it turned off?
Yes.
And why'd you have it turned off?
I was told to turn it off.
Who told you to turn it off?
I think it was Detective Harper.
Harper told you to turn it off?
Yes.
So that if Fung said something to you or you said something to him, if the audio had been on, we could pick that up, couldn't we?
That's correct.
But you were told before you started shooting to turn that off?
Yes.
Did you turn it off? Did you keep it turned off during the entire time?
Yes.
And when you spoke with Mr. Darden and Ms. Lewis on Monday, did you talk to them about that Dennis Fung appeared in that hallway at some point around 4:12 or 4:13?
Sustained.
Did the subject matter of Dennis Fung being in the hallway at Mr. Simpson's house at about 4:12 or 4:13 come up in your conversation at any time with Mr. Darden or with Ms. Lewis? Subject matter.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
No.
You've never discussed it with him at all, at any time?
No.
Never, prior to today, is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Do you have any other videotape of any of the proceedings that took place that day
No,
with
sir.
you today? You do not?
That's correct.
Very well, I have nothing further at this point, Your Honor. I would like to ask the legal court to approach at the appropriate time. One other matter.
Mr. Darden?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You were called to testify in this case by Mr. Cochran, is that right?
That's correct.
And the DA's office assisted Mr. Cochran in getting you here to testify, is that right?
Yes, sir.
You're a defense witness. Do you understand that, Mr. Ford?
Yes, sir.
Overruled. That's not true. Proceed.
You understand, Mr. Ford, that it isn't my responsibility to tell you what to do or not to do.
Sustain. Rephrase the question.
Your only involvement in this case is the fact that you shot this video. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You didn't go to Bundy, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't see the bodies at Bundy.
That's correct.
When you arrived at Rockingham, you didn't collect any evidence, did you?
That's right.
You're not a criminalist, are you?
No, sir.
Dennis Fung isn't a personal friend of yours, is he?
No, sir.
Mazzola?
No.
All you did was go out to Rockingham and shoot this video, right?
Overruled. Overruled.
Is that all you did, sir?
That's all I did.
Okay. Now, you didn't go to Rockingham to videotape evidence, did you?
This is correct.
You didn't go to Rockingham to videotape the collection process, did you?
That's right.
You didn't go to Rockingham to videotape Fung, right?
That's correct.
Or Mazzola,
That's right.
or the detectives,
Right.
You didn't go to Rockingham to record conversations, did you?
That's right.
Tell the jury, Mr. Ford, why did you go out to Rockingham that day?
I was called by the request of the detectives at the Rockingham location to videotape all the personal effects of Mr. Simpson, just in case when they're getting ready to lock up
Overruled.
they're getting ready to lock up his location, just in case any of the items are reported missing. And the tape was never to be used as evidence. It was only a record to show what was there when LAPD finished their investigation to leave.
When Mr. Cochran asked you if you were there to shoot anything and everything, that was true, correct?
That was true.
You were there to shoot valuables, right?
Yes.
You were there to document the way the house looked after LAPD completed its search. Is that correct?
Overruled.
Is that correct?
Overruled.
That's correct.
And that's something you
Hold
told
on.
me.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said overruled.
I did. Proceed.
And that's something you told Mr. Cochran, isn't it?
That's correct.
Mr. Cochran asked you that when you were up here on the witness stand?
Yes, sir.
You went there for administrative purposes only, is that correct?
Sustained.
Well, you didn't go there to assist in any criminal investigation, did you?
That's correct.
Or in any criminal prosecution, right?
That's correct.
You weren't there as an agent of the DA's office, were you, Mr. Ford?
That's correct.
Now, you told us a moment ago that you went there to videotape the property to show how it looked after LAPD completed a search.
Exactly.
Overruled.
And is that what you did?
Yes, sir.
Did you videotape the property to show the way it looked after the search was completed?
Overruled.
After the search was completed, sir?
Yes, sir.
In response to Mr. Cochran's questions, you told us about the instructions you were given. Is that right?
Repeat the question again.
Overruled. Overruled. That was the word used.
In response to Mr. Cochran's questions, you told us about the instructions you were given at the scene.
Yes.
You were instructed to only videotape a room after it had been searched. Is that right?
Overruled.
That's correct.
You were instructed to videotape a room only after it had been processed by the criminalists, correct?
Overruled.
That was correct.
And that's why we don't see sonks in these photographs. Isn't that correct, Mr. Ford?
Overruled. Overruled. No, have a seat, counsel.
That's correct, sir.
You don't know what was in that room before you arrived that day, do you?
That's right.
Sustained.
You can't testify to what was inside or not inside that room prior to your entry into the room with that videotape, right?
Overruled.
Is that right?
This is correct.
Now, do you know someone named Mr. Wilson?
Art Wilson? Mike Wilson?
Yes.
Yes.
He's a photographer, right?
Yes, he is.
He's a photographer just like you. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He's a crime scene photographer?
Yes, sir.
You saw Mr. Wilson at Rockingham that afternoon, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You saw him there with the camera, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You saw him there taking pictures?
I didn't see him taking pictures, but I saw him.
Okay. You didn't see Mr. Wilson take any pictures at all that afternoon?
No.
Okay. So if Mr. Wilson took any pictures, then he took those pictures before you arrived. Is that correct?
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Do you know why videotapes are made of locations and residences after they're searched?
I think we've already covered that.
You told us this morning about your conversation with myself and Miss Lewis.
Yes.
Did you also have a conversation with Mr. Cochran?
Yes.
And did you have a conversation with Mr. Neufeld?
Yes.
And you had a conversation with both of these men right here in the courtroom, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You were seated in the front row.
Yes.
Mr. Neufeld was seated to your left.
Yes.
Mr. Cochran was seated to your right.
Yes.
They had you hemmed up in there in that front row. Is that right?
Rephrase the question. Jurors to disregard that last question.
In any event, you were seated between Mr. Cochran and Mr. Neufeld.
Yes.
And you were watching the video we just saw here. in
Yes.
court. And they were asking you questions, correct?
Yes.
And you told Mr. Neufeld at that time, didn't you, that you only shot rooms after they were processed by the criminals?
No, object, that's hearsay.
Overruled.
Yes, sir.
That's no secret, is it?
No secret.
Now, let's talk about the camera you used. That was an RCA video camera?
Yes, it was.
And you don't own that camera, do you?
No, sir.
In fact, that camera was requisitioned from Property Division at the LAPD, is that correct?
Yes.
That was a camera that, what, had been stolen or taken off of a drug dealer or something?
No. Cross.
I'm sorry.
Rephrase.
That wasn't a camera that had been purchased by the department, was it?
That's correct.
says something about our budget, doesn't it?
Or?
Well, I was
Shall I
hoping
keep
you were
going?
going to finish.
Well, I'm gonna finish about 11, I think, if I continue.
All right, we'll take a recess. I want to see counsel at the sidebar with the court reporter, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our mid-morning recess. Please remember all my admonitions to you, and we'll see you back here in about 15 minutes. Mr. Ford, you can step down, come back in 15 minutes. Let me see counsel at the sidebar with the court reporter. Ladies and gentlemen, when we concluded this morning, just before we took our break, it may have seemed to you that I was a little annoyed with the lawyers, and I want you to know that it's just an expression of my being in a bad mood today, and the fact that I wanted to speed up the pace a little, and you should not consider that as my expression of any displeasure with the lawyers themselves, and you should ignore any expressions of what appears to be judicial attitude on my part. All right? Mr. Cochran, Mr. Darden. All right, Mr. Ford is again on the witness stand, and Mr. Darden, you may conclude your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Yeah, message received. When we left off, you were telling us that, well, you didn't see any socks on the carpet, right?
That's right.
Now, in the videotape that you shot, we'll strike that. Let me show you a copy of what is marked as People's 167. That will be the photograph of the socks on the
All right, this is People's 167.
socks on the carpet. Now, if you will, Mr. Ford, can you help us? Well, let's see if there's a way that we can sort of mark the spot in the photograph where these socks are located. You see the patterns on the rug there?
Yes, sir.
Jeez.
Yes, sir.
Can you see the arrow there?
Yes.
It's not an arrow yet. Okay. Starting at the top of the rug, that would be the area closest to the fireplace. Okay. How many patterns down from the top of the rug are the socks located?
Looks to me about the 5th pattern down, if you count the border.
Okay. So the border is 1, and number 2,
2.
3.
Go on. One more. 3. 4. Right there.
Okay. And now, starting from the bottom of the photograph here, which would be to the left of the carpet as you face the fireplace, how many patterns to the right of that edge would you say the socks are located?
5.
Starting with the border is 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
2.
Right.
3. 4. Right there.
Can we print this, Your Honor, 167?
167A.
Yes. Okay. Can we run the video also? Now let's go back to the video you shot. And let's go to the bedroom. While we wait for Mr. Fairtlow, you already told us that you don't own the camera that you use, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And it does have a timer.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Were you paying any attention at all to the timer in the video camera that
No,
day?
sir.
Was time an issue for you that day?
No.
Did it matter to you at all whether the time in the viewfinder was correct or incorrect?
No, it didn't.
Overruled. You can ask the question.
No, it didn't. It didn't matter.
Okay. And so you have told us that the time is 1 hour off, is that right?
Yes.
Let's take a look at the video for a moment.
All right, and this is Defense Exhibit,
No.
1068.
1068?
Yes,
Okay.
starting at 3:13.
Okay, so you're entering the bedroom, right?
Yes, sir.
Stop. Well, the tracking isn't real great on this system. But you've seen this video before, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Looking at at that shot, the shot of the rug in the edge of the bed, the one we just saw
Yes.
here at 3:13, this shot does not include the portion of the rug that is closest to the bed and below the fifth pattern, as you described it, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So if there was anything at all on that rug, you would not have picked it up in that video shot there, right?
Phrase question. Phrase question.
You didn't pick up anything in this video shot below the second pattern, is that right? I'll ask Mr. Fairtlow to go back for you.
Looks closely to the third pattern. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. And the socks that we saw in 167A, they were located around the fifth pattern, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll stop there. Okay, you were telling us about the timing on the video camera, and you said it's an hour off?
Yes.
Okay, but you don't know that for a fact, right?
Not for a fact.
Rephrase the question.
Well, when you were being asked questions by Mr. Cochran, you told us that someone told you the camera was an hour off, correct?
That's correct.
So you were relying on that other person, right?
Yes.
In fact, you don't know if the camera's an hour off, right?
Overruled.
Correct?
That's correct.
You don't know if the camera's an hour and 5 minutes off.
That's correct.
Okay. Because you never set the timer on this camera, did you?
No, I didn't.
Is it your job to set the timer on this camera?
Only by request.
Anybody make that request of you?
No.
Did anybody ask you to check the timer in the viewfinder to make sure it matched with the time on your watch?
No, they didn't.
No. Daylight savings time, that occurs around April, doesn't it?
I believe so.
Okay, and we all adjust our watches, right?
Yes, sir.
Did anybody adjust that video camera in April around daylight savings time?
I don't think so.
Do you know how to correct the time on that video camera?
Yes, I do.
But you didn't, did you?
No, I didn't.
And that's because it wasn't important to you.
That's correct.
And even though someone told you that the camera was off by an hour, have you ever attempted to determine whether or not the minutes depicted in the viewfinder are incorrect or correct?
No, just checking with the crime scene log. That's
Yeah.
all.
Okay. You have to rely on the crime scene log.
Yes.
And you haven't even seen the crime scene log.
Just a copy of it.
Okay. You've seen a copy of it? Is that right?
Yeah, the check-in list.
Okay. And so even in that regard, you're relying on what someone else wrote on the crime scene log.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because you didn't write on the crime scene log.
That's correct.
Okay. You didn't write the time on that log.
That's correct.
An officer wrote the time on that log?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you arrived at the scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Actually, it wasn't when you arrived at the scene. It was when you approached the gate at Rockingham, right?
Yes.
And if that officer's watch was off, then the time...
Sustained.
At any event, the officer didn't ask you for the time before writing the time down on the crime scene log, did he?
That's correct.
And so would it be fair to say that you cannot tell the jury how much or how far off the timing is on this video?
Overrule.
That's correct.
But you can tell the jury, however, that the timing is off.
Yes, I can.
Now, you did see Mr. Fung at some point upstairs, is that right?
Yes, I did.
And you had a conversation with him?
In passing, yes.
Okay. There were words exchanged?
Words exchanged.
Okay. Did you go into each and every room in that house?
Yes, I did.
Did anyone ever tell you that you were prohibited from going into any room in the house?
Overrule. Goes to his instructions.
That I was prohibited to go into any room?
Yes.
No, they didn't.
Did anyone ever tell you that you could not watch any particular procedure being performed by any criminals?
No, they didn't.
You told us that one of the detectives told you not to include any audio.
That's correct.
Did you think that was unusual?
No.
Overrule.
No, it's not unusual.
Why not?
A lot of times they don't want any sound picked up in the background when we're videotaping.
Okay. But you weren't there to videotape sound anyway, only things, correct?
Overrule.
It's cross.
Overrule.
This is correct.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor? Was there a point in time that you began to enter the master bedroom?
Yes.
And at that time, did you see Fung?
No, I heard him.
Okay. And where was he?
He was in the master bedroom.
And did you enter the room at that time?
No, I didn't.
Did you ask him something at that time?
No.
Did he ask you something?
Yes, he did.
And did you respond verbally?
Overrule.
Did you respond verbally?
Yes, I did.
And you did what Mr. Fung asked you to do?
Exactly.
Sustain.
Well, did Mr.
Answer
Fung,
stricken, juries to disregard.
did Mr. Fung ask you to do something?
Yes.
And you did that?
Yes, I did.
And where did you go at that point?
To the next bedroom.
And that would be the bedrooms that Mr. Cochran has described as being the children's rooms?
Yes.
And did you and you videotaped those rooms?
Yes, I did.
And did you see Mr. Fung again?
He was passing back and forth, going downstairs and coming back upstairs as I was videotaping. So I saw him in passing. It wasn't a stop and talk to one another.
Okay. Well, how about the point in time after you videotaped the first children's room, one of the children's rooms?
When I think I was coming out of the first children's room, doing the photographs on the wall in the hallway.
Overruled. You can finish the answer.
And he saw the video light.
Wait. Sustain. All right. Ask the next question.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor? Is there a light on the video camera?
Yes, there is.
You're walking toward the master bedroom door,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes.
Okay, did that light illuminate the doorway?
Yes.
Oh, and was it at that time that Mr. Fung said something to you?
Yes, sir.
That's when he asked you to do something.
Yes, he says, I'm not ready.
Sustain.
But he did ask you to do something.
Yes, he did.
What did you do after Mr. Fung asked you to do something?
I went to the next bedroom.
Did you do what Mr. Fung asked you to do?
Overruled.
What was the question again?
Your Honor, can I be?
Did you do what Mr. Fung asked you to do, yes or no?
Yes, I did.
It's an issue of subsequent conduct. In response, Your Honor,
Proceed.
may I ask the question?
Nope. Proceed.
Told us that. After you did what Fung told you to do, which was, we'll strike that. After you did what Fung told you to do, did you return to the bedroom?
I returned to the hallway.
Okay. By the way, was there anything unusual about, in your mind, about what Mr. Fung asked you to do?
Overruled.
No, there was nothing unusual.
Nothing sinister about that?
No, sir.
You returned to the bedroom? After,
I was going toward the master bedroom.
okay. Did you have the video camera in your possession at that time?
Yes, I did.
Did you see Mr. Fung at that time?
I probably saw him pass by me before I turned the video camera back on.
Okay. Did you see him exit the master bedroom?
Yes, I did.
By the way, did you see any brown paper bags in the house that afternoon?
Yes, I did.
Did you see any in the master bedroom?
I don't recall. I probably did, but I don't recall.
You see Mr. Fung carrying any brown paper bags that afternoon?
I did.
You recall where he was?
Not exactly. He was in the house.
Okay. And so was it after you saw Mr. Fung exit the master bedroom that you went into the room to videotape?
Yes, sir.
Now, at that point in time, did Mr. Fung do anything to stop you from going into the room to videotape?
Yes.
Okay, at this point in time?
Overruled.
Well, you told us that you saw Mr. Fung exit the room and go somewhere, right?
Yes.
Then you went into the room and videotaped, right?
Yes.
Okay. This particular point in time, did he do anything to stop you from going into the room?
No.
Did you and he speak to each other as you entered the room to videotape at that point in time?
Just in passing, yes.
Did you see anyone in the house that day plant any evidence?
Say that again.
You see anybody plant any evidence?
No, I didn't.
Now, you're not a sworn police officer, are you?
I'm not.
And you live in this community, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And you're under oath, you understand that?
Yes, sir.
If you saw a police officer violating the law, planting evidence, doing anything wrong at all while inside that house, would you tell us?
Yes, I would.
You'd tell Mr. Cochran, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
You'd tell Judge Ito.
Yes, sir.
Jury?
Yes.
Did you see any police officer do anything wrong inside that house that day? Did you?
No, sir.
Did you see Mr. Fung do anything that you thought was inappropriate that day?
No, I didn't.
Now, you told us that you testified back on March 31, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Cochran was here when you testified?
Yes, he was.
And Mr. Cochran asked you questions during that hearing?
Yes, he did.
When was the next time you spoke to Mr. Cochran? That is after March 31, 1995.
I think it was Tuesday.
Tuesday this week?
Yes.
And when Mr. Cochran spoke to you, he asked you questions, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you respond to all those questions?
Yes, I did.
Were you honest with them?
Yes, I was.
Being honest with this jury?
Yes, I am.
You telling the truth?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see Dennis Fung gather or collect any evidence that day?
Not gathering, no.
Okay. And you weren't there to watch him do that, were you?
No, I wasn't.
And when you were in my office the other day watching TV, in my office, right?
I think that's your office, Patty?
Okay. Are you talking about you were with Patty Jo Fairbanks?
Yes.
Patty Jo Fairbanks. You were watching TV, right?
Yes.
Had you had any word or any order or any directive from Mr. Cochran at all that you should not watch TV?
No.
Now, you were in my office at some point, right?
Yes, I was.
And you watched some television, right?
Yes.
And when you watched television in my office, you watched a portion of this video we just saw, right?
Exactly.
Okay, we didn't watch cartoons and
No.
other stuff, right? We didn't watch the trial, did we?
No.
And during the time that you were watching the trial, I take it you were watching me down here in court, right?
Yes, sir.
I wasn't up there with you, right?
That's right.
So I couldn't stop you from watching TV at the time, could I?
No, sir.
Sustained.
I'm sorry, did we mark this 167A?
Yes, 167A. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. Mr. Ford, again, sir, we won't keep you much longer, and you'll be able to go back to your duties. You were asked a series of questions by Mr. Darden, and he showed you that video again, and I want to ask you now to look right at this jury and tell him, when you walked into that bedroom, Mr. O.J. Simpson's bedroom, at about 4:12 or 4:13 in the afternoon, did you see any socks on that carpet at the foot of the bed?
No, I didn't.
You walked right over that carpet, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And sir, we can put all the dots we want or arrows on that carpet and we can move 5 spots in or whatever, but you were there and you saw that carpet, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you didn't see any socks on that, did you, sir?
Full roll.
You didn't see any socks, did you?
No, I didn't.
And you're telling us the truth, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And, you know, with regard to your role there, your role was important, and that's why you're paid by the city of Los Angeles, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
What you went out there to do was for civil liability purposes, is it correct? You took some photographs of the exterior and the interior of Mr. O.J. Simpson's residence, right?
That's correct.
Well, you took some, let me strike photographs, and you took a video of the exterior and interior of Mr. Simpson's residence. Isn't that right, sir?
That's correct.
And how long have you been employed by the city of Los Angeles?
13 years.
And you plan to do this the rest of your working life, don't you? I mean, this job with the city of Los Angeles?
Perhaps.
I mean, you like this job, don't you?
Well, it's a pretty exciting job, yes.
Right. You don't want to lose this job, do you?
No, I don't.
And you did your job well on that day, isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're just here to tell us what you recall from that date. Isn't that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, let's go back for a moment. So we're clear that you never saw any socks on that carpet. You've described for us that you left the location by 16:30 or 4:30 in the afternoon. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Roll.
And you've seen, I'd like to put you on Insurance People's 158 log. This, you've had occasion to see this log indicating the time that you left the location on that date, have you not?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a look. We'll start with the 1630 and see forward there.
Yes.
And that's the log you referred to. And 1630 is 4:30 in the afternoon, isn't that right?
Yes, it is.
And let's see if we can find when you arrived there. You got there. Let's see if we can move up and find forward again. You came with your
Yeah.
your boss,
Right there.
and you're pointing to a place where it says 1510,
Yes,
and it says you arrived at 1510 and left at 1630. Is that correct?
yes,
Now, that was logged and put down by some police officers. Is that correct?
that's correct.
You don't think that police officer would make those times up, do you?
No,
You didn't just create those times out of whole cloth. You wrote down the times that you arrived there, right?
Sounds like argument to me.
Think so, Your Honor?
Yep.
Let me see if I can phrase it another way. I was just thinking. With regard to these times on here, you have no reason to believe the officers weren't accurate the time they wrote those times down. Isn't that correct?
Overruled. Overruled.
You have no reason. You didn't ask that question?
yes,
They were accurate as far as you know, right?
yes,
Because in fact, Mr. Ford, you know that you got there about 3:10 because in looking through the viewfinder of this RCA camcorder, you know that you started shooting sometime shortly after 3:10. Isn't that correct?
Sustained.
All right. What time did you start shooting with this RCA camcorder on that particular date, sir?
shortly after I checked in.
Shortly after 3:10, right?
Yes, sir.
And so specifically, you went there. Isn't it correct that there was a police officer assigned there at the gate to log people in at this crime scene? Isn't that right?
This is correct.
And that,
Counsel, forgive me, but it's a very simple issue that now we've asked Mr. Ford, by my count, 10 times, were there any socks? And he has said 10 times, no. And we established what time he got there according to the log, talked about the camcorder,
all right,
and Mr. Ford has told us that this is all the truth.
all right.
So since we've all heard it 3 or 4 times now, perhaps we could wind this up.
All right, Your Honor. Certainly, I'll try to do that. Let me ask a few more questions of the court, please. Now, Mr. Ford, with regard to your role there, though, you never saw any evidence collected on that date. Isn't that correct?
No, sir.
Because that was not your job, right?
That's correct.
All right, you just went to do your job, and primarily your job was focusing on this viewfinder, right?
Yes, sir.
By the way, with this RCA camcorder, of course, permission, when you looked through this viewfinder, you could see the time and date in there, couldn't you?
Yes, you can.
In fact, there's a way, if you wanted to, you could disconnect that. Couldn't
That's
you press a little
correct.
button?
That's right.
But you never did that, did you?
No, I didn't.
And before this detective told you to cut off the sound, did you have the sound on?
I think it was. It was connected.
And you would have left this, you had nothing to hide that day, did you?
No, I didn't.
All right, and if you hadn't been told anything, you would have left the sound on, wouldn't you?
That's correct.
And the sound would have picked up anybody coming and going or any voices, right?
Right.
Now, you were asking questions about talking with myself and Mr. Neufeld on Monday of this week. You recall that?
Yes,
And we just asked you what had happened. Is that correct?
that's correct.
And you responded and told us. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, in the video, you did video these blood drops in the foyer, did you not?
Yes, I
Pictures of
did.
that? You took pictures of that, right?
Yes.
Nope.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may I be heard on that, with regard to that?
It's beyond the
Because-
scope.
May I ask one other question with regard to that, and you can become clear
One
to the
other
court?
question.
Or,
One other question.
well, you had indicated that you did not, you've told us already you didn't really see any evidence collected, right? You told us that.
That's correct.
And you told us that you weren't focusing on any items that might be collected there that particular day, right?
That's correct.
But you did, in fact, focus on and photograph some blood drops in the foyer area. Isn't that correct?
That's good.
Overruled.
Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And also downstairs, did you not focus in, video in on a glove that had been placed by some detective on a table downstairs?
Sustained. Sustained. Assumes facts, not evidence.
Well, may I show the video? May the court indulge me a moment? All right.
Those two portions. Those two portions.
Sure. Thank you. Now, with regard to, we'll show two areas. Oh, was that, by the way, stop, back that up. Back it up a little further. Back up. Now stop it.
All right, starting at 2:32 on the tape, which is 10:68, appears to be in the foyer, entry foyer.
Right, and is that where you photographed the blood spots? Is that
Yes.
correct? And I want to show you a person. Move on a little forward, Mr. At this point, Mr. Guys, can you move on forward? I want to ask you if there's a lady. Just stop right there. You know who that lady is?
Yes.
Who is that lady?
Marsalis.
Now, would that be Mazzola?
Mazzola, yes.
Or as Mr. Neufeld says, Mazzola? Is that Miss Mazzola?
Mazzola, yes.
We have various pronunciations. But that's Miss Mazzola?
Yes, it is.
Okay, sir. All right, continue on. That was about 3:33. It's about an hour before you left there, right? At this point?
Yes, sir.
All right. He's going to point where I point you. Let me ask you another question to save some time. With regard to, Mr. Darden asked you some questions about this camera. We've already gone to the time that you logged there, and the court didn't want us to do that, and then we know what time you started shooting. And with regard to that, who was it who told you that the camera was an hour off and related back to daylight savings time? Who was that?
I don't know the exact person's name. It was a detective working on the case from RHD.
Detective working on the case from where?
RHD?
So it was a police officer who told you that?
Yes.
He told you the camera was 1 hour off, right?
Yes.
All right, and you believe that, right?
Yes.
That was consistent with everything else you saw there, right?
Yes.
Do you remember that detective's name at all?
It might have been Harrow. I don't know. I had gotten it secondhand through my boss.
All right, and you don't know who it was exactly?
Not exactly. Just somebody from RHD.
Howard's the person you turned the tape back over to, right?
I think so.
ask a few more questions. He's still trying to get to the glove part. I apologize for the delay. Maybe we approach on one question while we're doing that.
Sure.
Some time. Thank you.
Without the report.